My friends, trust. It is the most expensive thing in the world. You can buy technology, you can buy weapons, you can buy influence. But you cannot buy trust. Trust is the rarest currency in the world. People think money runs the world, but it doesn't. Money can buy products, money can buy services, money can even buy influence for a short time, but money cannot buy trust. Once you lose trust, no matter how much wealth you have, no matter how much power you hold, you cannot get it back easily. And that is why trust is more valuable than gold, more powerful than armies, more permanent than temporary alliances. Think about this. When you go into a marketplace, you can find thousands of sellers. Some offer the lowest price, some offer the highest quality, some promise the fastest delivery. But when you buy something, whom do you choose? You choose the one you trust. Because even if the price is slightly higher, even if the delivery takes a little longer, you know that person will not cheat you. You know that person will not disappear after taking your money. That trust is invisible, but it shapes every decision you make. Nations are no different. India has many choices. Every powerful country in the world wants India on its side. They offer deals, they offer weapons, they offer investments, they offer technology. But India has learned one lesson again and again. Promises are easy, consistency is hard. Many have promised friendship in times of peace, but when difficult times arrived, they disappeared. Many have spoken loudly about partnership, but when India needed support, silence became their answer. That is why India understands it does not matter how big a country is, how rich it is, or how strong its military might be. What matters is whether it can be trusted when the storm comes. Trust is rare because it takes years to build and seconds to destroy. Imagine you are climbing a mountain with someone. For 10 years, they hold the rope, they climb beside you, they guide you. But one day, when the mountain is steepest, they let go of the rope. All the 10 years vanish in that single moment. That is what betrayal feels like. India has climbed this mountain of history with many partners, and in some of the toughest moments, many hands have slipped away. But one hand held tight. That is why India remembers who it can trust. Trust is rare because it requires sacrifice. If someone only stands with you when it benefits them, that is not trust, that is business. Trust means they are willing to stand with you even if it costs them something. True trust is proven not in times of comfort, but in times of crisis. When sanctions were imposed, when wars threatened, when resources were blocked, India saw who truly stood beside it. Not with speeches, but with action. That action is what separates a friend from a pretender. Trust is rare because it is not written in documents. You can sign 10 agreements, you can sign 20 treaties, but paper cannot hold trust. Trust lives in memory. Trust lives in the mind of people. You may forget the words in a contract, but you will never forget who helped you when you were weak. India has never forgotten. India knows exactly who gave weapons when others only gave advice. India knows who shared technology when others only shared warnings. India knows who stood silently and who stood firmly. In the end, trust is not about what you say, it is about what you do. Nations, like people, follow the same rule. And this is why trust is the rarest currency in the world. It is the only currency that never loses value, the only currency that grows stronger with time, and the only currency that can make a small nation greater than a superpower. This is the truth India has learned. This is why India may trade with many, may negotiate with many, may speak to many, but it will trust only one. History builds partnerships, but trust builds nations. This is the lesson that centuries of struggle, alliances, betrayals, and victories have taught India. Partnerships are easy to make because they are often built on needs. When two sides need each other, they shake hands. They sign agreements, they smile in front of cameras, and they call it friendship. But when the need is gone, when the profit is no longer there, those partnerships dissolve like sand in the wind. That is why history is full of alliances that came and disappeared, but very few relationships that survived the test of time. A nation is not just an economy, not just an army, not just a piece of land. A nation is its memory. And memory is long. India remembers the empires that came to take, not to give. India remembers the sanctions that were used as weapons. India remembers the moments when others decided for India, not with India. All of these memories taught India a simple truth. Partnerships that are built only on convenience do not last. They break the moment pressure comes. But trust, that is different. Trust does not depend on convenience. Trust is about faith, and when trust is strong, it can build not just business ties, but the very foundation of a nation's future. Think of two farmers. One farmer borrows water from the other during a drought. The first farmer promises he will return the favor one day. If he truly does, then a partnership grows into trust. Over years, both farmers know that in times of need, they will not be alone. Their survival, their growth, their families are all protected because trust has replaced uncertainty. That is how nations grow stronger too. Not by taking advantage of each other in good times, but by supporting each other in difficult times. India has partnered with many countries in trade, technology, and defense. But what has India really looked for? Respect. A partner may give you machines, but only a trusted friend will teach you how to build them. A partner may sell you weapons, but only a trusted friend will stand beside you when those weapons must be used. A partner may invest for profit, but a trusted friend invests in your future. That is the difference between partnership and trust. History can produce impressive partnerships, treaties, agreements, trade routes. They all look powerful on paper. But history has also shown that the moment profit is at risk, many so-called partners walk away. That is why trust is more powerful than history itself. History can bring two nations together, but trust decides whether they stay together. India knows this because it has lived through decades of shifting alliances. One day, a country promises friendship. The next day, it threatens sanctions. One day, a country signs an agreement. The next day, it blocks supplies. This cycle taught India that it cannot build its future on fragile partnerships. To build a nation, it must stand on trust. Trust gives confidence, confidence gives independence, independence creates strength, and strength allows a nation to walk its own path without fear of betrayal. India's rise in the world is not built on temporary partnerships, but on the careful choice of trust. That is why when the question is asked, who does India trust, the answer is rare but clear. Because history builds partnerships, but only trust builds nations. In a noisy world, one country has proven consistency. Everywhere we look today, the world is full of voices. Leaders make promises every day, nations make declarations, treaties are signed, deals are announced. The headlines are loud, the speeches are dramatic, and the words are endless. But when the time for action comes, most of those voices disappear. The noise remains, but the substance vanishes. And in this noise, consistency becomes rare, almost invisible. Yet India has discovered that consistency is more valuable than strength, more valuable than wealth, more valuable than even the loudest declarations of support. Imagine standing in a crowded market where everyone is shouting, every seller trying to grab your attention. They offer the best price, the best quality, the fastest delivery. The noise is so loud that you cannot even think. But there is always one seller who doesn't need to shout. He doesn't chase you. He doesn't try to impress you with big promises. He simply delivers what he says every single time, and because of that, you go back to him again and again. That is the power of consistency. It doesn't need noise. It proves itself quietly, again and again, until people know they can depend on it. India has seen this in the world of nations. Many countries have spoken of friendship. Many have promised to stand with India, to respect its growth, to support its aspirations. But in the most critical moments, when wars were near, when supplies were cut off, when the pressure of global politics tried to isolate India, most of those voices fell silent. What remained was not the memory of promises, but the memory of actions. In those moments, India saw clearly, consistency matters more than words. Consistency is not glamorous, it is not dramatic, it does not make headlines every day, but consistency builds trust like nothing else. A nation may not be the richest, it may not be the most powerful, but if it shows up every single time, if it stands steady when others hesitate, it becomes more valuable than all the loud promises. Combined, India understands this better than anyone because India has been betrayed by the noise too many times. Think of friendship in your personal life. You may have many friends who party with you when times are good, who laugh with you when life is easy. But who comes to your door at midnight when you are in trouble? Who answers your call when everyone else is too busy? That person may not talk the most, may not make the biggest promises, but that is the friend you will trust for life. Nations are no different. In the chaos of global politics, consistency reveals true friends. The world today runs on power games. Countries shift their positions depending on profit, influence, and strategy, but India has watched carefully. It has noticed who changes their words with every election and who remains steady despite pressure. That steadiness is priceless. It means that India does not have to guess, does not have to doubt, does not have to fear sudden betrayal. Consistency removes uncertainty, and uncertainty is the enemy of trust. So in this noisy world, when everyone is shouting, India looks for the one that stays calm, steady, reliable. The one that doesn't need to prove loyalty with speeches, because loyalty has already been proven with actions. That is why India trusts only one, not because of power, not because of wealth, but because of the quiet strength of consistency. Mutual growth is stronger than dependency. This is a truth many nations forget, but India has learned through experience. When one country depends on another only for survival, it is not friendship, it is not trust, it is weakness disguised as partnership. Dependency creates imbalance. It creates fear. The weaker side is always afraid of losing what it needs, while the stronger side holds power like a weapon. But mutual growth is different. Mutual growth means both sides become stronger together. It means the relationship is not about control, but about shared progress. Think of a tree and a gardener. If the gardener only takes from the tree, its fruits, its wood, its shade, then the tree will eventually wither. That is dependency. But if the gardener gives water, protects the roots, and the tree in return provides nourishment, both survive and thrive. That is mutual growth. India has always wanted to be the tree, not the beggar standing under it. India wants partners who water its roots, not those who simply pluck its fruits. For decades, India faced relationships built on dependency. Some nations wanted India to rely only on their weapons so that India could never build its own. Others wanted India to depend on their technology, their money, their markets. These relationships were never about India's growth, they were about control. They created the illusion of partnership, but in reality, they made India weaker. And every time India tried to stand tall, those so-called partners reminded India of its dependency. This is why India started walking a new path. India began to value those who believed in mutual growth. Those who didn't just sell, but shared. Those who transferred knowledge, not just products. Those who saw India not as a customer, but as a partner. That is how true trust is built. Because when growth is mutual, betrayal becomes costly. If both sides benefit from progress, then both sides have a reason to stay loyal. Mutual growth ties futures together. Dependency ties only hands. Think of a business. A supplier can lock you into buying only from them, charging whatever price they want. That is dependency. But a real business partner helps you expand, teaches you new skills, and makes sure that as you grow, they grow too. That is why the most successful companies in the world are not built on dependency, but on collaboration. The same rule applies to nations. Dependency keeps you small. Mutual growth makes you great. India knows this better than anyone. When one country gave India machines, but also taught India how to make them, India remembered. When one country sold India weapons, but also helped India build its own defense, India remembered. When one country invested not only for profit, but for India's future, India remembered. These moments were not acts of charity, they were acts of vision. A vision where both sides rise together, where trust replaces fear, and where respect replaces dominance. This is why India chooses carefully. It does not want to be dependent. It does not want to be controlled. It does not want to be treated as a market to be exploited. India wants growth that is shared, growth that lifts both nations, growth that lasts for generations. Because dependency can trap you, but mutual growth can set you free. And this is the secret of trust. True trust is never built when one side holds the power and the other side clings for survival. True trust is built when both sides look at each other and say, "If you rise, I rise too." That is why India trusts only one country, not because it needs it, but because together they grow stronger. India is not looking for protection, it is looking for respect. This is where many countries have misunderstood India. They think India wants someone to defend it, someone to shield it, someone to guarantee its safety. But India has never wanted to live under another's shadow. For thousands of years, this land has faced invasions, colonialism, wars, and sanctions, yet it has survived. If survival was India's only goal, it would not be rising today. India does not ask for protection because protection means weakness. Protection means you believe you cannot stand on your own. What India wants is respect, the kind of respect that sees India as equal, not as dependent. Respect is not given through weapons. Respect is not given through aid. Respect is not given through promises. Respect comes from recognition that India has the right to make its own choices, to follow its own path, to grow in its own way. Too many times, other nations tried to protect India by telling it what to do. They offered safety in exchange for obedience, help in exchange for silence, friendship in exchange for compromise. That is not respect, that is control, and India has rejected it. When a student studies hard, what does he want from his teacher? Not protection from failure, but respect for his effort. When a company builds itself from nothing, what does it want from its investors? Not just money, but respect for its vision. Nations are no different. India has worked tirelessly to stand tall, to build its economy, to strengthen its defense, to uplift its people. After all this effort, it does not want to be treated as a follower. It wants to be treated as a partner. Respect is powerful because it is the foundation of trust. If someone protects you, it may be out of kindness or interest. But if someone respects you, it means they see your strength. And when they see your strength, they no longer see you as a burden, but as a force worth standing with. That is why India does not seek protection. Protection can be withdrawn. Respect, once earned, lasts. Think about relationships in everyday life. Imagine a friend who always insists on protecting you, telling you what to do, where to go, how to live. It might feel safe at first, but soon you realize you are not free. Then imagine another friend who stands beside you, not in front of you, not behind you. This friend says, I respect your choices. I may guide you, I may support you, but I will never control you. That is the friend you will trust forever. This is the relationship India looks for. Respect means sharing technology instead of keeping it hidden. Respect means supporting India's voice on global platforms instead of silencing it. Respect means treating India not as a buyer, but as a builder of the future. When India sees this kind of respect, it gives back loyalty. When India feels only pressure and control, it walks away. So, the world must understand, India is not asking who will protect me. India is asking who will respect me, and the answer to that question decides everything. That is why India trusts only one country, the one that does not try to protect it like a child, but respects it like an equal. Because protection fades, but respect builds partnerships that last for generations. The shocking truth is this: India trusts only one country, not because of power, not because of wealth, but because of values, resilience, and long-term reliability. For many in the world, this is surprising. They see India as a nation surrounded by options, powerful nations offering weapons, investment, technology, and promises. From the outside, it looks like India should trust many, that India should spread its relationships wide. But trust is not about quantity, it is about quality. India may trade with many, talk with many, even sign agreements with many, but trust, that is reserved for only one. Why? Because power shifts. One country may be strong today and weak tomorrow. Wealth changes hands. A rich nation today may face crisis tomorrow, but values, reliability, and resilience, these do not fade with time. India has watched the world carefully. It has seen who stands firm when the winds change. It has seen who keeps promises not just when it is easy, but when it is difficult. That consistency is what separates true partners from temporary allies. The truth shocks people because they confuse trust with deals. A deal can be made in one meeting. Trust cannot. A deal can be signed with a pen. Trust must be written with actions over decades. A deal may benefit one side more than the other, but trust balances both. That is why India's trust cannot be bought, cannot be forced, and cannot be manufactured with speeches. It must be earned, and only one country has earned it. Think of the storms India has faced: wars on its borders, sanctions on its economy, pressure from global powers to bend and follow. In those moments, Most nations did what was convenient for themselves. They turned their faces, they raised their prices, they tightened their restrictions. But one country did not. One country proved that friendship is not tested in sunshine but in rain. That country showed up not just in words but in action. And action is the language of trust. This is the shocking truth the world must understand. India does not trust because of fear. It does not trust because of need. It does not trust because of charity. It trusts because it has seen resilience, it has seen values, and it has seen reliability in times when everything else failed. Trust is not about how much you give when it is easy. It is about how much you stand when it is hard. That is why the trust India places is rare, unique, and precious. In life, you can have many acquaintances, but very few true friends. In business, you can have many customers, but very few loyal partners. In global politics, you can have many connections, but very few nations you can truly trust. India knows this truth